Hi, Marty. How you doing today?
Oh, very well, Len. Thanks so much for asking.
Yeah, I thought we had some great discussions last week, and I thought you and I get together and just put this out for everybody to listen to because I think there's some really important factors in the way we approach our planning. And I think from time to time, it's a good thought to sit back and analyze what the industry is doing and what we're doing when it comes to our approach to the client. And I think what really strikes me is I always thought getting older would take much longer. and and it would,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
but it comes up really quick, doesn't it? I mean, it's just like, holy smokes, there you are. And then I start looking at stuff and every day in the United States, 10,000 people reach the age of 65.
Hard to believe. Hard to
Yeah.
believe.
I mean, it's like um it's for what it is. I mean, those people are entering into another stage of planning. And what we want to talk about in our training this year is the critical stages of planning. But what really popped out to me was the fact that, and personally, I'm going through some stuff with my family, and my wife's mother, had an accident, and life changed immediately,
Yeah.
and it happens to all of us. So the big question, and the words are important, as you know, Marty, the big question is, will you inherit all the financial challenges or will you inherit the financial solution? And I think what we want to break this down to is there's a critical thought process in the planning aspect that doesn't get enough attention. It's about ownership of things as we get older so that we can create that generational transition for some of our clients. So when we get to that point, I think the industry walks away from things, and I get really confused about what the industry has done going from stage three, which is that aspect in planning where we're preparing them for distributions and everything else, and then just in a very brief but painful moment in life, things change. And stage four is just a random accident
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah. Well, how would you define stage four then?
Stage four is, stage four is that transition stage where we have to redefine what we're doing. And what bothered me about my thought process was, and looking at Jan's mom, was the fact that she used to make the financial decisions. Now the family is making those financial decisions. And we have left the family out of the planning aspect of this. We missed a great opportunity here to expand our planning and really expand our revenue, expand our, the way we get new clients. But we missed the boat on this, and it's simply having the discussion many times. So in our industry, we study the calculators, we study the products, we study rates of return and accumulation, and we also talk a lot about deferring taxes and doing all these things. But none of these elements impact stage four, which is what we call finishing the plan. So this is just a general discussion, and I want to get your take on this because you've experienced this in your family too.
Oh, definitely.
The cost of not finishing the plan in our lives. And we end up transferring away unknowingly and unnecessarily hundreds of thousands of dollars in these situations. And it's simply the consequences of not being prepared, not even having the conversation with the client. And again, once again, our industry is fragmented. I mean, we talk about fragmentation in the industry. There are specialists in annuities, there's specialists in investments, but the coordination of all these benefits is really difficult to harness. And so we end up entering into stage three, which is, retirement care 101, the basics of it, where we do, some asset evaluation, and we'd start talking about to the client about preserving their assets and asset distribution. And then also we have a light conversation about Social Security. And then it's time to make healthcare decisions, which also involves government involvement.
Right.
And
It's, yeah, the only thing I would say, Len, is it's when you look at your family and you realize your family of origin, and lots of times, there's been no discussion, or there's been, obviously I come from, as my mother would always say, a lower middle class background, and survival was always the key. It's like, I used to tell you how my father every Friday, the day he would receive his paycheck or his pay envelope with literally cash and coins in it, he'd end up going to work with a dime in his pocket. And, thankfully, that's not the situation for myself and my siblings, but it's very interesting, to be able to have a true family discussion about money and what's going to happen, and especially about what's going to happen with retirement. And again, my father, had a heart attack and he died. That was the thing. What did my mother have to do? Well, my mother had to go to work. So things happen, as you say, shockingly, quickly, without plans having been made.
Unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And in this stage of planning, what we talk about Retirement Care 101, I think we teach you about words and conversation, and some of this stuff. We talk about the 11 seconds of questions in entering this conversation with your current client. Are you a member of a strong, loving family? Are your parents, or do you have children? Are your parents alive? On a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the best, how they doing financially, and on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being best, how's their health? Yeah. And that simply opens up the door. But the first question is very important. Are you a member of a strong, loving family? And I think thinking about this deeply as I get older, you start realizing that someday I'm going to have to leave the planet. You're going to have to leave the planet. And in stage 3, many times this is the last active stage of planning for that 65 to 75-year-old person. And then, like I said, everything else after that is by accident. And
buckle up and sit back for the ride. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. And you're not in control of the tornado that you're in. It's just what happens where things land, they land. So, and as you were saying, like in your lifetime, and your experience with your dad, it just, in one painful but brief moment in life, things change dramatically. And in that moment, all the dreams, hopes, and goals of an entire lifetime are gone. And I started thinking about how our system is set up and the way we go about business. And we fail to talk to the client about ownership. We fail to talk to them about the next generation. It's almost like it's a selfish conversation, but we don't care.
Yeah.
But the money that's flowing out, in the form of what we call forever care and end care, is devastating. It's not just devastating to the immediate family, but it's also devastating to the children of that family, because now we're throwing away any inheritance, any thought of passing on the parents' lifetime of work down the drain. And so the question is, how do we prepare if we're not aware? How does somebody in our industry prepare our clients and open up that second generation of that family in their planning efforts when they're not aware of the consequences? And transitioning to stage 4 is simply what we call forever care and end care. But it's mostly psychological, emotional, and there's financial devastation. And the question, when you start thinking about it, like what happened to your dad, you start thinking in your lifetime, is this the beginning of the end? Your life, your mother's life changed dramatically. Because what happens there when we go into stage 4 is that, the impact on the remaining spouse is just devastating, psychologically, emotionally, financially. And there's a time for asset reevaluation. What's going on? What is left when it comes to that single spouse's life now? And then there's that discovery, that awesome discovery of what's not protected in a nursing home stay. Perhaps your father wouldn't have died. He would have went into a nursing home. My mother was in a nursing home for 6 years, Marty.
Yeah, yes. And I've known people who've been there for 8 to 9 years. It is financially devastating.
So we start to discover these things by accident. And there's accelerated financial costs immediately. And then the wonderful people that we rely on to guide us in our lives, the government intervention on our finances and the level of care that's available for us comes as an afterthought in our planning. Yeah. And at that point, there's nothing you can do to protect your finances because there's a 5-year look back. Now, the important thing to me in my weird way of thinking is we just changed the decision makers. We changed the decision maker from being the client that is now in a nursing home to the decision makers who are members of the family, the kids and the relatives. So that transition to me is amazingly costly, and there's not too many sources of finding revenue at that point. We can talk about the husband and wife's assets. We can talk about other family members if they want to help out financially. And then we talk about in the government end is Medicare, Medicaid type of thing. And it's amazing that in order to qualify for the government stuff, you got to be totally broke.
That is a devastating thought and concept. And the terrible thing is, that's one way to do it. And, I guess over the past 20 years, you've heard, it's like an industry that's been built up to make sure your parents are broke by the time they would have to go into a nursing home. It's awful.
Yeah. In order to receive any benefits from the government, you have to be totally broke. I mean, they make sure it happens too. So if we're looking at cost, just for a brief moment here, and let's take the reality end of it, 12% of people over the age of 65 will end up in a nursing home. It's not everybody. My father was lucky enough to avoid all of these situations. At the age of 73, he went out to the kitchen, went into the refrigerator, got a piece of lemon meringue pie, and went back in the living room, sat in his favorite chair with his favorite dog sitting next to him, and boom, took his last breath.
Yeah.
And the dog hopped up on his lap and ate the pie. But
I guess you had to throw that in. Yes, that's good.
But the reality was that my father's exit on this planet was the most efficient way to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate to say that, because when we look at the statistical elements for a male going into a nursing home, and at your age and my age, we got to start thinking about this. I mean, you're only 60. What? You're just.
I'm just a tad older. That's it.
Okay. But the average stay, according to all statistics, for a male is 2.2 years.
Yeah.
That's $260,000. The female's 3.7 years. That's $430,000. Now, just as a planner, I had to slow this down a little bit. If I take $250 a month for 30 years at 6%, that's $250,000.
Yeah.
For a female, if I look at this differently, if I say I put $425 a month away for 30 years at 6%, that's $429,000. I had to slow the game down just a little bit for myself and say, am I funding the golden years or am I funding the ending? And since the rich know how to do this, the rich say, if we know this cost, let's insure against that cost. The rich do this when it comes to estate planning and taxes. If we know the taxes are going to be there, why aren't we assuring it against that loss? Through life insurance.
Yeah.
And ownership would be very important because then it's outside what you have to claim when it comes to a nursing home or what we call forever care. This amount of money is a tremendous loss. And in my wife's side, her father went through this, was in a nursing home for 2 years, and now her mother's there. So when we combine what is being handed out, it's a tremendous amount of money, a tremendous amount of work in your lifetime just to pay for this benefit, just to pay for the end of life the way we want it. And so things have changed dramatically. I remember when my grandmother died and my grandfather moved in with us. There was no nursing homes at that time. This was in the 60s, and you sit there and grandpa moved in with us, and that was the story. But now things have changed dramatically. You know, here in Michigan, if I was to go into a nursing home, my wife would be able to claim $148,000 in assets that would be exempt. A home, but there's an asterisk to that. I can claim the home if there's no intent for me returning, and the car. But the government, in its wisdom here in Michigan, has passed a Michigan Recovery Act. That means if the remaining spouse, it goes into a nursing home and the house is kept, and the person in the nursing home dies, and then the family sells the house, the state of Michigan can come back and take the money from the sale of the house.
It's yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And this all comes down to ownership. So what else is an exempt in a nursing home stay? Let's just say, and I'm talking about nursing home, but there's other aspects of a nursing home. It's not just age. It could be an accident. It could be, an early heart attack. It could be, but these assets aren't protected.
Say it ain't so, Len. Say it ain't so. I mean, it's.
But you
Wow.
you look at this, and every one of these instances has something in common in the protection of this for the remaining spouse and the rest of the family, and that's ownership. So,
Well, if this doesn't show people, individuals, your clients, agents, advisors who look at this stuff and realize, I love how you always say, hey, listen, you've done a great job based on the information you had. You made the best decisions you possibly could. But if you don't have, if you now acquire new knowledge, new information, well, what does that demand on you? Well, that demands that you apply that new knowledge to what you have, where you store your money, who's going to own those things, how this is all going to work together. It's, people in our profession should be constantly busy, just talking to people about what exists out there, expanding their clients' knowledge base so that the proper decisions can be looked at. And this is just, and this is just basic knowledge things above and beyond the role of hiddenomics and the core elements and financial calculations. It's devastating when you look at this. It's wow.
Yeah, I think when we look at these assets and say, if there was a way to preserve this amount of money for the next generation, for your children and grandchildren, without you spending one more dime, would you do it?
Yeah.
You know, so we look at all these things, and here's the hook line. You'll never get to the right solution if we're having the wrong conversation, Marty, and you know that.
Yeah.
And this is an important question. I mean, put this on the back of your business card. Will you inherit all the financial challenges, or will you inherit the solution? We've even put out a letter, you know, for your company and for agents to use. And it just talks about life insurance and annuities. If you own cash value life insurance or a tax deferred annuity, it's a sign of your commitment to your spouse and your family. It would be a serious problem if these values and these products were taken away from you. So, and then we simply discuss what Medicare says. The cash surrender value of life insurance is exempt if the face amount payable at death is not more than $1,500.
Yeah.
The remaining spouse can only claim $1,500, depending on ownership. The entire cash surrender value is counted as a non-exempt resource, and that's true of annuities too.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
there's ways to avoid these problems, but we're not having the conversation. Only 1 in 30 Americans, this is the solution end of this thing. Only 1 in 30 Americans have some type of long-term care. So the alternate is we should have a serious discussion with the family about ownership. And in protecting the assets comes in 2 formats. You can put it into a trust, or you can have the family get involved in ownership of the assets. What we fail to realize in our industry, Marty, I think, and I know you realize it, that this is an opportunity of a lifetime for a client. This discussion is an opportunity of a lifetime, but it's also an opportunity of a lifetime for the planner, because it gives you the excuse or the reasoning to have a discussion with the children of that 65-year-old person. And at that point in time, it gives us an opportunity to say, look, like the rich people secure, to make sure the value of the family is secured through an estate plan, and we have insurance to pay the taxes. Can we secure the value of the family and cover the payment for long-term care or end care in the planning? Does that make sense?
Oh, makes absolute sense there.
Yeah.
It's, the funny thing is, as I like to say, sometimes some people are, were raised to be poor. That was just part of the mentality, but everybody aspires to be rich, to have what they need, to be wealthy. And the whole idea is, I think what I love about what you've said always in the past, Glenn, is, if you understand the rules of the rich, you're going to help change your life. If you're going to help your family, if you understand that your family is a bank unto itself. You'll make different decisions, understanding. The more knowledge you have, the more you're going to be able to apply that knowledge.
That's right. And
differently.
If we understand the challenges,
yes,
then we can truly find the solutions that meet that challenge. What you're saying about everybody aspires to be rich and stuff, but they don't know how to do it. That's why the casinos are full, and that's why
yes, they are. Yes,
trying to buy those tickets every month to win the jackpot, and it's we all want to be there. We just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And if you have a sensible 5-minute discussion with a client and say, if you have an opportunity to save these resources that you were going to give away for pennies on a dollar, would you do it? Is there enough love in this family to do it? So I want to thank you for your time, Marty. I know you're in my life, you're an important guy, but I know in the company, you're just there's no way of replacing Marty Smith, and your knowledge is just tremendous. And I put down the number for Security Mutual on you. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, but if you have any questions. You know, I feel these are two phone numbers you should carry around in your wallet. You know, it's a,
No, that'd be great. That'd be great.
so
It's my
uh,
office phone. So yeah.
yeah. Now there's one last opportunity that I want to discuss with you, and I might try to surprise you with this, but this year's training, and the first in a series, is that on May 4th, we're having a symposium in Livonia, Michigan. And this is going to be a great event, I think. I mean, we're going to talk about the stages of planning, and we're going to talk about how to increase your revenue as a planner. But we're going to center it around not the product, because the real sell comes from inside. It comes from the planner itself. Heck, if they could figure out how to sell this just through the internet without the planner, they would do it in a minute. So we're going to be talking about increasing the agent's awareness and developing marketing and sales skills, and present solutions that solve problems and avoids the unintended consequences. And I would like for everybody listening in to seriously consider taking one day of your life. This is a one-day event, and coming down and talking to me and Marty, and really have a defining moment in the way you think about planning. This will change everything forever in your life. And I think your awareness and your knowledge is everything to the client. The best product we can set in front of a client is an educated, knowledgeable agent. And that's what our goal is. And so with that, I want to say, Marty, if you have people who are really serious about looking at this, contact Marty, and he'll make arrangements if possible, if getting a scholarship to come to, on behalf of Security Mutual New York, to come to this event. So I would seriously.
It would be my pleasure, Len. That would be my pleasure.
So Marty, I want to thank you. I know you got to go out train for the next marathon, and and
so true.
And I've got to go down to the pool or something.
Excellent. Well, that's
so. Listen, you have a great day, and continue the great work that you do, Marty. I really appreciate it. In the industry, you're really a gift to the industry. So thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you, Len, and I would say you are wealth and wisdom, and just so everybody out there to understand that it's really you who needs to be the solution in your client's life, as Len says often enough. It's you who are the solution, not the products. You are. So,
all right, Marty.
Thanks so much, Len.
Thank you. You take care and have a great day.
Have a great day. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.